Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. And just so you know, I got a link in my description box for my YouTube podcast. First thing I got for you here is from Cryptopolitan. France is demanding that Europe cuts ties with the United States. Let's see what it says here.
France's President Emmanuel Macron has demanded that Europe reduces its reliance on the United States and avoids getting dragged into a confrontation between the US and China over Taiwan. The statement, made during Macron's three-day state visit to China, could risk riling Washington and highlights the divisions in the European Union over how to approach China. France's concept of strategic autonomy. Macron emphasized his pet theory of strategic autonomy for Europe, presumably led by France, to become a third superpower. Speaking with Politico and two French journalists on his plane back from China, he said the great risk Europe faces is that it gets caught up in crises that are not ours, which prevents it from building its strategic autonomy. He also highlighted his concern about growing tensions in the region that could lead to a terrible accident. Macron's comments came just hours after China launched large military exercises around Taiwan, which China claims as its territory. Beijing has repeatedly threatened to invade in recent years and has a policy of isolating the democratic island by forcing other countries to recognize it as part of one China. Europe's dependency on the US for weapons and energy, and the extraterritoriality of the US dollar were two factors Macron singled out as reducing Europe's autonomy. He suggested Europe should focus on boosting European defense industries and reducing its reliance on the dollar. Macron's concept of strategic autonomy for Europe has been his long-held goal, and he sees France as the balancing power between the Cold War blocs. He has argued that Europe must reduce its dependency on the US to become an independent geostrategic player. The French leader emphasized that Europe needs to have a European strategy in areas such as Ukraine, relations with China, and sanctions. Macron warned against getting into a bloc versus bloc logic and said that Europe should not be caught up in a disordering of the world and crises that aren't ours. Risks of getting dragged into a confrontation. Macron's comments highlighted the risks of getting dragged into a confrontation between China and the US over Taiwan. He argued that it is not in Europe's interest to accelerate a crisis over Taiwan, saying, "The worst thing would be to think that we Europeans must become followers on this topic and take our cue from the US agenda and a Chinese overreaction."
And that was after he spent 3 days with over in China there, Macron, and they brainwashed him, is what they did, because China and Russia is together. Anyway, tell me what you think about this, and we're going to the next one now. This one here from 1945, the real Joe Biden scandal.
The myth of Joe Biden's blue-collar heritage is the real lie that should be exposed. Joe Biden's net worth is about $9 million, but between his tenure as vice president and his time in the Oval Office as president, Biden's estimated earnings were about $17.3 million. When I worked in government, I distinctly remember Biden, with that mouth full of blinding white dentures, that he was the poorest member of Congress. To prove his monk-like poverty status, Biden was a constant passenger on the Exila Express, routinely taking the Amtrak train from Washington, D.C. to Delaware, the state he represented in the Senate. As a senator, Biden routinely touted his impoverished status to prove somehow that he was worthier than others to comment on national economic and social policies. It was a cheap appeal to authority that, far too often, worked. Truly, Biden did come from humble, middle-class beginnings. But Joe Biden had been in political office since he was 29, the year Biden became the junior senator from Delaware. Astonishingly, in an institution that historically prizes the wisdom that comes with age, and independently generated wealth, the 29-year-old Biden became an early fixture in the Senate. This was especially so because of the trauma he had endured after losing his first wife and daughter in a terrible car accident on the eve of his swearing-in as senator. Biden never earned a buck in his life. Biden's starting salary in 1972 was around $155,000. The median income for families in the United States in the same year that Biden began earning $155,000 per year as a United States Senator representing Delaware was about $11,120 per year, according to a U.S. Census Bureau report at the time. Because of Biden's position in the Senate, he also taught at Widener University School of Law, earning about $20,000 per year on top of his Senate salary. Ultimately, Biden's Senate salary would increase to shy of $200,000 per year. Later, as vice president, Biden earned $225,000. Today, as President of the United States, Biden makes $400,000. Unlike his much-maligned predecessor, Donald J. Trump, who gave all his yearly presidential salary to a different charity, Biden keeps his money. And for all Biden's fond reminiscences about his time riding the Axila Express and splitting his time between his Senate office in Washington, D.C., and his district, he never once mentions that all those trips were paid for by the taxpayer. Think of the hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer-funded trips Biden must have enjoyed over the course of his 36-year career in the Senate. Things only got more expensive for the taxpayer once Biden became vice president. To give you a snapshot of the expense involved, the Government Accountability Office, GAO, estimated that one presidential trip to Africa cost $42.8 million in 1999. In 2000, the GAO assessed that the United States Department of Defense spent at least $292 million to provide fixed-wing airlift and air refueling support for 159 White House foreign trips, 27 by the President, 20 by the First Lady, 8 by the Vice President, and 104 directed by the President. These figures are from 23 years ago. You can be sure that the costs have only increased. So, since the age of 29, Joe Biden was making well above the national average in terms of salary, was racking in frequent flyer miles and other unique experiences that most middle-income Americans could only ever dream of, all at the expense of the same blue-collar and middle-class Americans that Biden claimed to represent and whose socioeconomic class he was a part of. The Biden crime family? Once out of the vice presidency, Joe Biden and his wife, Jill, began earning gobs of money from various speaking engagements, book deals, and think tank positions. More dangerously, though, Joe Biden's net worth is not the only factor to consider when assessing his wealth. You see, there is a toxic miasma of potentially ill-gotten wealth that has been kept compartmented away from Joe Biden. The 46th son, Hunter, has been at the epicenter of a massive influence peddling scandal that many believe is a front operation for a much larger scheme to enrich the Biden family by trading access to Joe Biden's positions in government. According to the Hunter Biden laptop from hell that has since become a PR nightmare for the Biden family and the wider Democratic Party, the first son complained to his daughter, Naomi Biden, in 2019 via text messages stored on the laptop that he was tired of kicking back half of his earnings from lucrative board positions and his own firm's legal work to support. One can hear the anguish in Hunter Biden's already tormented mind that, "I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. Hunter then added in the text to his daughter, "But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary." Hunter Biden sat on the board of the Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma, where he was paid a whopping $83,333 per month. Hunter has no real experience whatsoever in the energy sector, other than helping to proliferate his father's political malarkey. When his father served as the vice president in the Obama administration, Hunter traveled extensively on Air Force Two to make numerous deals with Chinese state-owned firms. At each step, according to Hunter Biden's own admission in the voluminous text messages stores on his laptop, he gave a cut of his earnings to his father. In fact, evidence has since appeared indicating that Hunter was orchestrating massive payouts not only to his father but to his sister-in-law and sometime lover, Hallie, as well as his uncle, James, Joe Biden's brother. So, while Joe Biden's official net worth may be $9 million, more than anyone considered middle-class or blue-collar today, when combined, the Biden family's wealth may be far greater than what's official understood. The opaque nature of the Biden wealth indicates that some form of illegal or, at least, legally questionable activities have generated the family's immense wealth. Joe Biden is not a man of the people. And it dispels the narrative that plain old Uncle Joe Biden is just a typical man of the common people. He is not. The Biden family, even if their net worth were only valued at $9 million, far exceeds the average net worth of any member of the class that Joe Biden says he's a part of. Moreover, the Biden family's lavish lifestyle, both in government and in their private lives, is nothing like the constrained and financially unstable lifestyles of the people that Biden purports to represent and rule. Don't fall for the shtick. Joe Biden is just an old-school political huckster who has gotten too far with a winning smile, empty brain, slick suit, and backslapping persona that simultaneously creeps people out and appeals to them. He isn't one of us. And hasn't been for decades. Therefore, his policies are not designed to benefit we, the people. They are designed to enrich himself and enhance the plutocratic, globalist elite who support Joe Biden, as well as the foreign governments who pay for Hunter's schemes. A 1945 senior editor, Brandon J. Weichert, is a former congressional staffer and geopolitical analyst who is a contributor at The Washington Times, as well as at American Greatness and The Asia Times. He is the author of Winning Space: How America Remains a Superpower, Republic Book Publishers, Biohacked, China's Race to Control Life, May 16, and The Shadow War, Iran's Quest for Supremacy, July 23. Weichert can be followed via Twitter at WeTheBrandon.
Okay, I had the computer read this whole article because I thought it was important. Joe Biden is not for the people. Joe Biden is for Joe Biden and his family. This was from 1945. Anyway, let me go to the next one here. This one here is from News. Vladimir Putin could unleash chemical weapons on West in desperate bid to sabotage weapons being shipped to Ukraine. See what it says here.
After hinting at using nuclear weapons to support his operation in Ukraine, there's new concern that Russian President Vladimir Putin will use chemical weapons. A Ukrainian news outlet reported Saturday that the Russian Defense Ministry has announced the trial of a chemical attack. It's reportedly a plot to blame Ukraine for sending bodies and remains of dead servicemen equipped with toxic substances to the Sumy Oblast region in northeast Ukraine. According to Ukrainska Pravda, Russia has a pattern of carrying out its own deadly attacks, then blaming Ukraine for them. Two former British military officials theorize Putin also may order chemical weapons to be used to disrupt the military supply chain to Ukraine. Retired British Brigadier Ben Barry senses a surprise is coming from Moscow, as the battle for Ukraine approaches 14 months in length. Barry told the Sun tabloid Saturday that the Russians might plant a form of nerve gas at the entrances of a European arms factory. Western governments have accused Russia of using the chemical Novichok on occasion since 1995. A former Russian intelligence agent and his daughter reportedly were targeted in Britain in 2018. Barry believes Poland could be a target for the chemical weapons. There's a vast infrastructure in Poland and other Eastern European countries that is receiving and transferring weapons and equipment to Ukraine, Barry explained. The concern is shared by a former commander of the British Army's Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Regiment. As they get more desperate, we must expect them to look at more extreme measures, Hamish de Breton Gordon said. The Russians claim they destroyed all their nerve agent stockpiles in 2017. British Armed Forces Minister James Heappey has warned if the Russians use chemical weapons, NATO could respond by moving some of its military personnel inside Ukraine.
And that's it on that story there. All the links will be in my description box. See, not only nuclear war you got to worry about, you got to worry about chemical weapons also. Let's go to the next one here. This is from News Nation. Police disrupt potential bomb plot ahead of Biden's Belfast visit.
Northern Ireland police disrupted a bomb plot days before Biden's visit. The new IRA was planning to build a bomb and launch an attack. The news has not affected Biden's travel plans. Joe Khalil. Updated, April 9, 2023/6:37 p.m. Central Daylight Time. News Nation, in Northern Ireland, police have disrupted a potential terrorist attack, an attempted bombing, just days before President Joe Biden's upcoming trip to the country. According to the Belfast Telegraph, a group calling themselves the New IRA, a Republican paramilitary group, was planning to build a bomb and launch an attack that would coincide with Biden's visit. Although the report does not suggest that the group was targeting the American president, they planned the attack to occur during his visit. Third suspect arrested in killings of Florida teens. The new IRA has launched several recent attacks, primarily targeting law enforcement. Their heightened activity prompted Irish officials to raise the country's security alert level from substantial to severe. Despite the recent terrorist activity, the news has not affected Biden's travel plans. In response to a reporter's question about the increased terrorism threat level, the president stated, "No. They can't keep me out." Simon Byrne, the chief constable of Northern Ireland, warned that the terrorist threat level was severe, indicating an attack is highly likely right across Northern Ireland. Byrne stressed that the group's primary focus for these attacks continues to be police officers. Biden's trip will begin in Belfast and move on to Dublin and County Leith before wrapping up with a visit to his ancestral home in Ballina, County Mayo. This week, Ireland and the UK will mark the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, which ended decades of violence and sectarianism in Northern Ireland. The new IRA opposes this agreement, and it is part of the reason why the group has ramped up its attacks.
Okay, that's all on that one there. I'll put in the link in my description box anyway. And would it be something if you go over there and they get them, and then Kamala Harris is vice president? You know, it's like jumping out of the skillet into the fire. The United States is going to hell. Just trust me, it is. Anyway, let's go on to the next one here. This from Business Insider. The Chinese military posted an animated video simulating how China's forces would attack Taiwan if war breaks out. And see, here's all the simulation here. Let's see what it says here.
An animated video from the Chinese military shows how China's forces could attack Taiwan. The video showed a targeted, multi-pronged assault on Taiwan executed by aircraft and Navy vessels. China held drills around the island after Tsai Ing-wen met Representative Kevin McCarthy on Wednesday. Full screen. 1 of 30. Chinese army posted a video on Sunday showing how a full-scale attack on Taiwan from China could be launched if war were to break out. An animated video from the Chinese military's Eastern Theater Command's official WeChat account was reposted to Twitter by the state-linked media outlet Global Times. It showed the possible trajectory of missiles landing on Taiwan and its surrounding waters and mapped out how forces from the Chinese mainland, including military aircraft and Navy vessels, could launch a coordinated attack. Let's
see if we can see anything out of this video here. I'm going to replay it. That's a lot of missiles coming after Taiwan by the assimilation.
While this might be viewed as propaganda and bluster in the wake of Taiwanese leader Tsai Ing-wen's U.S. visit, China did conduct drills simulating precision strikes on Taiwan over Easter. Wan's Ministry of Defense said in a statement on Monday that 70 Chinese aircraft and 11 Chinese Navy vessels encircled the island on Monday morning. The drills were part of a military exercise conducted by the People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater Command, a statement on Saturday from the Chinese Ministry of Defense said. The statement added that the drills are a stern warning that China will not tolerate provocative activities of Taiwan independence secessionist forces and their collusion with external forces. The drills kicked off after Tsai met House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California on Wednesday. McCarthy said Tsai was a great friend of America, and that America's support for the people of Taiwan will remain resolute, unwavering, and bipartisan, the Associated Press reported.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. Not that much more to read there. Let me go on to the next one here. It's from Bloomberg. U.S. Navy challenges Beijing in South China Sea amid Taiwan drills.
Bloomberg, a U.S. Navy destroyer passed through waters claimed by Beijing in the South China Sea in a show of force that comes as the nation's military holds drills around Taiwan. Most USS Milius guided missile destroyer conducted freedom of navigation operations Monday in the South China Sea near the Spratly Islands, the U.S. 7th Fleet said in a statement. The ship sailed within 12 nautical miles, 22 kilometers, of Mischief Reef, where China has its largest outpost on artificial islands in the South China Sea and the closest to Philippine territory. These operations demonstrate that the United States will fly, sail, and operate wherever international law allows, regardless of the location of excessive maritime claims and regardless of current events, it said. The move risks stoking tensions with China, which has denounced similar operations as an infringement of its sovereignty and security. This week, the U.S. plans to start annual military exercises with the Philippines, which are set to be larger than previous years as ties warm between the longtime allies. China's military tracked and monitored the U.S. warship during its passage, which was done without the permission of the government in Beijing, the country's Southern Theater Command said in a statement on the Weibo social media site. Beijing asserts it has rights to more than 80% of the South China Sea, whose other claimants are the Philippines, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Brunei. The U.S. refuses to recognize China's claims, and regularly conducts what it calls freedom of navigation operations to challenge them. China, meanwhile, this week has held multiple exercises involving aircraft and ships near Taiwan, after the island's president, Tsai Ing-wen, returned from a visit to the U.S., which included meetings with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and other U.S. lawmakers. Taiwan's defense ministry said in a statement that on Sunday it detected 70 aircraft from China's People's Liberation Army and 11 warships near Taiwan as of 4 p.m., with 35 of the warplanes crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait and entering the southwestern part of the island's air defense identification zone. Beijing had pledged to respond to any meeting between Tsai and McCarthy, calling it a provocation that damages China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The latest drills appear to be on a smaller scale than exercises held by China after then U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last year, and didn't include any imposition of exclusive zones in its airspace and waters. With assistance from Kevin Ding. Updates with statement from China's military.
Okay, let's see here. Let's see what this video here is about.
Strait on Saturday as China kicks off drills around Taiwan. an angry response to President Tsai Ing-wen's Wednesday meeting with US House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The three-day drills, announced the day after Tsai returned from the United States, were widely expected after China condemned the meeting in Los Angeles. Chinese state media released what it said was footage of the drills, showing warships at sea and fighter jets refueling in the air. Reuters could not authenticate when or where the material was shot. A Chinese warship in seas facing the Taiwan Strait also began live fire drills. In the Chinese and Taiwanese capitals, residents reacted to China's move. Wang is from Beijing.
Military exercises are what we should do. It's good to beat Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen to death. Let's take Taiwan with military force. Personally, I think I will join a war against Taiwan, even if I'm just carrying cannon shells.
In Taipei, Liu Qihao said he didn't think the drills would create security concerns for Taiwan and that, quote, everything that China does is to push the limits. China's People's Liberation Army said it had started the combat readiness patrols and joint sword exercises around Taiwan, adding it would be holding them in the Taiwan Strait and to the north, south and east of Taiwan as planned. Taiwan's defense ministry said on Saturday morning it spotted the Chinese fighters and ships crossing the median line that normally serves as an unofficial barrier between the two sides. It added in a statement that China was using Tsai's US visit, quote, as an excuse to carry out military exercises, which has seriously damaged regional peace, stability and security. China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory and has never renounced the use of force to bring the island under its control. Taiwan's government strongly objects to China's claims.
Okay, now we go to the next one here. This one's from Business Insider. Putin may be preparing to bring Russia's prize bomber jet to the war on Ukraine after elite military intelligence found Ukrainian air power will be completely reduced by June, report says.
Intelligence documents were leaked this week, revealing American and NATO plans in the Ukraine war. The New York Times reported the documents said current Ukraine air power will be depleted by summer. Facing a weakened air force, Russia may be emboldened to bring out bomber jets it has reserved from combat. Military intelligence leaked online this week indicated Ukrainian air defenses will be depleted by the end of May, which may embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin to bring reserved fighter jets to the front lines. Ukrainians are rapidly using up stores of munitions faster than allies can replenish them, Insider previously reported. At the current rate of use, the leaked documents say, Ukrainian air defenses will be completely reduced by May 23, the New York Times reported. The veracity of the documents is still being investigated, though some versions circulating online have been edited, Insider previously reported. Without increased military aid, which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly told allies should come in the form of F-16 jets, the New York Times reported Russia may be emboldened to bring out bomber jets it has been saving from facing Ukrainian defenses that have so far destroyed 280 Russian planes. Fighting against a weakened Ukrainian air force, increased Russian firepower could change the course of the war. Russia has so far held back its most advanced jets, including its much-touted Su-57 stealth fighter, from the front lines of the war over fears that they would be shot down, Insider previously reported. Representatives for the Pentagon declined to answer Insider's questions regarding the leaked documents or strategy details they purport to show, but provided an emailed statement reading in part, the Department of Defense continues to review and assess the validity of the photographed documents that are circulating on social media sites and that appear to contain sensitive and highly classified material, adding that the matter has been referred to the Department of Justice, which has opened a criminal investigation.
Okay, let's see what this video says here.
Iran is investigating how classified documents on the war in Ukraine leaked to social media. The documents, which appeared on Telegram and Twitter, detail secret American and NATO plans for building up the Ukrainian military ahead of a planned offensive against Russian troops. The documents include charts of anticipated weapons deliveries, troop and battalion strengths, as well as other plans. Military analysts who have seen the documents say they appear to be modified to overstate the number of Ukrainian deaths and understate the number of Russian deaths. The analysts say this could point to a disinformation effort from Russia. However, they also noted parts of the documents do appear to be authentic. The Ukraine offensive is expected to begin in the next month or so. It would follow Russia's own recent offensive, which has struggled to make gains in eastern Ukraine. Western analysts are currently debating whether the Russian military is even capable of resisting a Ukrainian attack or mounting their own.
What sets Straight Arrow News apart from the other guys? Well, for one, we're on a mission to serve you, not...
Okay, that's all I got on that one there. And let's go to the next one here. This is from Motor Biscuit. What is no ethanol or pure gasoline?
If you've ever pulled into a gas station, you've probably seen the option of ethanol gas. Most U.S. fuel stations offer a mixture of gasoline and ethanol for reduced cost, environmental benefits, and more. However, there is still an option of no ethanol or ethanol-free gas available as well. Let's examine what this option means, how it differs from other fuel types, and its pros and cons. First, what is ethanol gasoline? Ethanol gas is a blend of gasoline and ethanol that the EPA has approved for use in most cars. The most common mix is E10, 10% ethanol, though some states may offer different combinations, such as E15, 15% ethanol. Ethanol helps reduce emissions from engine exhausts, resulting in fewer pollutants released into the atmosphere. It also increases octane levels in fuel, which can improve engine performance. What is no ethanol or ethanol-free gas? No ethanol or ethanol-free gas does not contain any ethanol. Instead, it consists almost entirely of conventional gasoline with no additives. This type of gasoline was initially developed for small engines like those found in lawnmowers and snowblowers. However, it has since become popular among car owners due to some advantages over regular fuel with added ethanol. Pros and cons of no ethanol gas. No ethanol gas has several advantages over regular fuel with added ethanol. It doesn't absorb water from the air. It has a longer shelf life. It provides better engine performance. It allows for improved fuel economy. It's better for power equipment that would be damaged using regular fuel with added ethanol. On the other hand, no ethanol gas is usually more expensive than regular fuel with added ethanol and happens to be worse for the environment. Additionally, many newer engines are not designed to run on no ethanol fuels. According to the Maritime Herald, newer engines focus on reducing stress on engines that require high octane levels. How to find and differentiate ethanol and no ethanol gas. Related. The EPA finds that E15 fuel is dangerous for 2001 model cars and older. Finding no ethanol or no additive gasoline isn't always easy. It may require some research on your part. Luckily, there are plenty of resources available that can help you out. For starters, you'll want to check out websites such as Pure Gas that list all nearby locations where you can buy no additive gasoline near you, or even nationwide. Additionally, some companies offer top-tier detergent fuel labels on their pumps so that customers know they're getting high-quality detergent gasoline without any additional additives or impurities mixed in. With these resources at your fingertips, finding non-additive/no ethanol gasoline options should be relatively easy. Should I use no ethanol gas? The choice is up to you. It's clear why people opt for this type of gas more often, including its ability to provide better engine performance and increased shelf life over traditional with additive fuels. All things considered, while these options are pricier than regular fuels, when used correctly, no ethanol or ethanol-free fuels have more advantages than disadvantages overall. Just ensure your vehicle is compatible with no ethanol gas before pumping it into the gas tank.
Okay, that's all I got on there. They got a couple of YouTube videos here, how to test your gasoline, see how much ethanol it has in it. There's two different YouTube videos, Project Farm and this other one from Canada, Steve's Small Engine Saloon. They're both pretty good shows. Anyway, let me go on to the next one here. This is from the Washington Post. China's new world order is taking shape.
You're reading an excerpt from the Today's Worldview newsletter. Sign up to get the rest free, including news from around the globe and interesting ideas and opinions to know, sent to your inbox every weekday. It was a bumper week for diplomacy in Beijing. Chinese President Xi Jinping accompanied his French counterpart, President Emmanuel Macron, on a 3-day visit to the Chinese capital and the southern metropolis of Guangzhou. Escaping, if briefly, from the fiery protests taking place in his own country, Macron was received by adoring, excited crowds of students at Guangzhou's Sun Yat-sen University. In between grand receptions and formal tea ceremonies, the two leaders saw a slate of French companies and Chinese state-run firms clinch some major business deals. Macron gave Xi the optics he sought, a clear reminder to the United States, who Xi obliquely referred to as a domineering third party, of the gap between its hawkish stance on China and the more perhaps equivocating posture of many in Europe. It was less clear what Xi gave Macron politically. The French president urged Xi to bring Russia to reason over its invasion of Ukraine, but that was met by boilerplate rhetoric and little indication of the needle of the conflict being moved in any significant direction.
And there's more to read. You can read the rest of this in my description box here. I'm going to go on another one here. It's going to be a long newscast, probably. This is from Business Insider. I figured it was interesting here. Experts fear deteriorating parking lots could collapse under the weight of heavy electric vehicles.
Experts in the UK are concerned the weight of electric cars could cause old parking lots to collapse. Many multi-story parking lots have structural flaws due to a lack of maintenance, The Telegraph reported. Guidance recommending adding load-bearing weights to the infrastructure is due to be released soon. Full screen. As the popularity of electric cars grows, some experts are concerned that the heavy weight of electric vehicles could cause multi-level parking lots in the UK to collapse. Due to the aging infrastructure of many parking garages in the country, engineers said that the amount of weight the buildings can hold should be raised and that maintenance of parking lots should be improved, according to a report by The Telegraph. I don't want to be too alarmist, but there definitely is the potential for some of the early car parks in poor condition to collapse, Chris Wapples, a structural engineer and car park consultant, told The Telegraph. Teve Holmes, senior technical manager at building supply firm Sika, also told the news outlet that many parking lots in the UK had structural flaws baked in due to a general lack of maintenance. Electric vehicles are significantly heavier than gasoline-powered cars, given the weight of the batteries necessary to power them. Ford's F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck, for example, is 2,000 to 3,000 pounds heavier than the same model's non-electric version, according to the Associated Press.
Okay, oh, that's almost over. Anyway, you can read the rest of this in my description box. I want to hear what this video here says.
It's not just cars that will be going through the energy transition in the years ahead. The parking lots where EVs go to recharge are also a growing focus of construction efforts linked to climate change and carbon reduction. And the big box stores are getting into the act. Target revamped one of its California stores with solar panel carports this spring. Home Depot is making efforts to have all of its stores use only renewable energy by the year 2030. While Walmart hopes to achieve this by 2040. In recent years, an increasing number of solar projects have been built over commercial parking lots. With the growing production and consumption of EVs, the International Energy Association reported U.S. electric car sales doubled in market share in 2021. Solar-powered commercial businesses have become more beneficial to consumers, requiring EV chargers and parking lots.
Okay, now this article is basically about UK, but I know it's going to be for the US too. I know we got some weak buildings. A while back, it's a good while back, a garbage truck fell through a parking garage that drove on top. Anyway, let's go to the next one.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
This is from Fox News. This $6 trillion problem threatening to push inflation even higher.
Following the 2008 global financial crisis, the Federal Reserve created trillions of dollars to ease financial conditions and keep banks afloat. Many economists predicted record inflation would result. But Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke pulled an ace out of his sleeve. He paid banks to park much of that money at the Fed and limit its inflationary effects. That victory was evanescent, and now the bill is coming due for the Fed's quarantining almost $6 trillion to keep a lid on inflation. The multi-trillion-dollar corner that the Fed painted itself into is now costing $275 billion annually, more than the Treasury spent on all veterans' benefits and services last fiscal year. And it's going to get worse. Paying interest on reserves sterilized the money because any cash kept at the Fed was not being lent out by banks, and therefore wasn't multiplying as it normally would through fractional reserve banking. But the inflationary pressure from Congress's deficit spending has put the Bernanke model of sterilizing money on steroids. Economy is in the tank, banks are reeling, inflation is sky high, and there's more Biden isn't telling you. In the spring of 2021, the Fed began ratcheting up its reverse repurchase agreement operations, or reverse repos. These are short-term loans to the Fed with Treasury securities serving as collateral and provide quick but not lasting adjustments to liquidity levels in financial markets.
Okay, there's more to read on that. You can link me to the description box for you. Well, all I got to say, they can raise the APR in a couple of years. I have all my charge cards paid off, and I'm going to destroy them. If I don't have the cash, I won't get it. Okay, here's something from Fox News. Trump faces maximum sentence of 136 years in prison for a 34-count indictment. It said if convicted or falsely business records, Trump likely faces far less than 136 years max. Let's see what it says here.
Former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in New York City on Tuesday to 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree. The charges carry a maximum sentence of 136 years in prison, though the actual sentence will likely be far less than that if he is convicted on any or all counts. Falsifying business records is typical. A misdemeanor charge in New York, but rises to the level of a felony with a maximum 4-year sentence when a defendant's intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg was asked by reporters at a press conference on Tuesday afternoon why the second concealed crime was not specified in the indictment.
I was watching this one video. Where was it? Forgot where it was. They said, this is going to go on to September, maybe past that. I think it was right here, this video.
So 34 charges. They're felony charges for falsifying business records in New York. And 19th, and then the next hearing would be December 4th. And it is quite a ways off, yes.
Did the defense show their cards on the types of motions that they're going to file? For instance,
A long ways off yet. This is going to go on and on and on, and people will get tired of hearing about it. Let's go on to the next one. Fox News. AOC claims there is crime wave with GOP after saying officials should ignore court rulings.
Argued there is a crime wave within the Republican Party, citing former President Donald Trump's indictment and controversy over Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. I admit it is very difficult to see a path in the Republican Party that refuses to hold itself accountable and, in fact, breaches the law itself, Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat New York, said on CNN. The crime wave is within the Republican Party. It is within all. What we are seeing, we have seen, we are seeing breaking of the law by conservative members of the court. We are seeing a former president of the United States just indicted in recent days. I mean, we need to hold our systems accountable, she said. Trump was indicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in a Manhattan court. The indictment comes as prosecutors looked into hush money payments that the former president allegedly made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and former Playboy model Karen McDougal. Trump faces maximum sentence of 136 years in prison for 34-count indictment. Thomas was accused of improperly receiving lavish gifts from a wealthy friend, which one expert described as a political hit job. I believe that we should pursue the course, and if it is Republicans that decide to protect those who are breaking the law, then they're the ones who then are responsible for that decision, but we should not be complicit, Ocasio-Cortez continued. Ocasio-Cortez made no mention of the Biden family's alleged corruption, including Hunter Biden's notorious laptop that reportedly contains information about the Biden family's business dealings with foreign nations.
Yeah, because he's probably a Democrat. That's why. Don't worry, Biden's going to get it and Hunter's going to get it. Trust me. I'm going to keep pushing it. Next one here. The harrowing story. Oh, wait, this is from the Your Tango. The harrowing story of the Dutch ghost ship whose entire crew died and their face paralyzed in fear.
Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, a good ghost story might put you in doubt about what is real and what is fake. Mysterious places like Dudleytown, Connecticut, where it's too haunted to visit, and the town of Marfa, where aliens apparently land their UFOs, are the subjects of much fascination. But one rumor involving the supernatural is based on a merchant ship that wrecked in Indonesia's Straits of Malacca. The ship, called the SS Arang Medan, was labeled a ghost ship after its crew all died under very suspicious circumstances. And the mystery remains just as eerie today. What was the SS Arang Medan? The story of the SS Arang Medan took place in 1940, 1947, or 1948, depending on who you ask. It is debatable as to whether or not the ship truly existed or is an urban legend. But the ship was referenced by a 1952 United States Coast Guard publication and in 1948 by New York's The Albany Times and the San Francisco Examiner.
Okay, you can read the rest of this later if you like. Here's a video about it too. I'm not going to play it. Let's go to the next one here. Xi Jinping could seize Taiwan without a shot fired. See what it says here.
Michael McCaul, a Republican and the House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman, warned that Xi Jinping might take control of Taiwan without resorting to military action. What happened? McCall, who was last week on a visit to Taipei, cautioned that Beijing will likely attempt to meddle in the island nation's upcoming election, reiterating the worries of experts that 2024 could play a crucial role in China's efforts to seize control of Taiwan. There's a political debate here, the two different parties. One party wants to talk to China. President Xi's party does not want to be a part of China, he said.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. There's more to read. Not a lot more, but it's more to read. Let's go to the next one here. This one here is recession threat may mean stock market investors no longer see bad news on the economy as good news.
Market snapshot. Investors are suddenly worried about a potential recession. That means bad news on the economy might no longer be good news for the stock market. Until recently, investors welcomed signs of a slowing economy, figuring it meant the Federal Reserve would soon stop raising interest rates, presumably in time to avert a recession as inflation cooled. Following last month's banking troubles, investors appear more fearful of a potential downturn, market watchers said. The market has shifted its focus from inflation to recession this year, according to Michelle Mora, portfolio manager at Money Farm. The recent employment data adds to the growing evidence that inflation is slowing down, and even if taking into account a more dovish monetary policy, the main focus is recession, Mora said.
And you can read the rest of this in my description box. Let me go on to the next one here. This one here I thought was pretty funny. This is from the Premier Daily. Oklahoma liquor store faced backlash over offensive sign.
In the world that we live in today, it is very important to choose our words carefully. Words have power, and words can offend. So, if someone doesn't want to get cancelled by people not only online but also in the physical world, they would have to know which words to say, and which words to keep mum about. In 2017, a liquor store in Oklahoma faced some backlash after it put up an offensive sign on its window. The sign read, "Pull your pants up or don't come in." The store in Oklahoma, Midwest Wine and Spirits, informed the press that they had put up this sign simply because their customers walked in with low-hanging pants. The sign also read, "Try to have some decency and respect for others. No one wants to see your underwear." Chad Gilbert, one of the managers of the establishment, mentioned, "I realize wearing pants low is a fashion statement for some, but it doesn't work for me and I find it somewhat offensive." Offensive sign sparks outrage outside Oklahoma liquor store. Needless to say, some customers took offense to the offensive sign. Sunshine Weatherby mentioned, "I can see that if it was like a church. There are families there, you might have a problem with that, but this is a liquor store. I've seen worse at a liquor store." But another employee stated that low-hanging pants also raised security concerns as well. Shauna Wiesner stated, "Usually, when people come in with their pants sagging, it's easier for them to steal bottles. The staff does keep quite a close watch on any individual who comes in wearing low-hanging pants." Also, while it is true that the sign is quite blunt and to the point, we would all agree that sagging pants look extremely disturbing. If men really want to flash themselves, they should do it in their own homes. Other incidents of offensive signs which resulted in similar reactions. Interestingly, one has to also consider what construes an offensive sign in the world today. A sign outside a store did go viral on Twitter where the owner of the store had written that the store was closed because they had to fire both of their cashiers. The cashiers who had quit were teenagers, and the owner was probably a middle-aged individual. Goes without saying, the generation gap probably brought up certain differences in the way a boomer would deal with things versus how a Gen Z individual would. The store owner also mentioned that they were looking to hire only other boomers who, apparently, would have a better understanding of the time at hand.
Okay, yeah, I remember. A dollar store had a sign there about their two cashiers, quit. He said they're lazy and stuff. He got in trouble for that and got fired. Anyway, this sign here, that's not offensive. If I was a owner, I'll put up a sign like that, store owner, because I don't want anybody hanging their pants down walking to my establishment. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Tell me what you think about it. This other one from Fox News. U.S. Navy destroyer sails near militarized man-made Chinese island, drawing rebunked from Beijing.
The U.S. Navy announced Monday that one of its guided missile destroyers sailed near a Chinese man-made island in the South China Sea, drawing accusations from Beijing that the ship illegally trespassed in the area. The Freedom of Navigation operation carried out by the USS Milius near Mischief Reef, which a U.S. admiral said last year was one of at least 3 islands China has built and militarized in the area, came as China sent nearly a dozen warships and 70 fighter jets toward Taiwan. Unlawful and sweeping maritime claims in the South China Sea pose a serious threat to the freedom of the seas, including the freedoms of navigation and overflight, free trade and unimpeded commerce, and freedom of economic opportunity for South China Sea littoral nations, the U.S. Navy 7th Fleet said in a statement Monday. By engaging in normal operations within 12 nautical miles of Mischief Reef, the United States demonstrated that vessels can lawfully exercise high seas freedoms in those areas, it added.
Okay, you can read the rest of this in my description box if you like. I got one more for you here. It's from the cool down. This state just blew up its last coal plant to make way for massive community charging construction project.
New Jersey just demolished Logan Generating Station, one of its last coal-fired power plants, Bloomberg reports. Built only 28 years ago, the plant was purchased from Atlantic City Electric in 2018 by Starwood Energy Group, Bloomberg says. The investment company intends to convert it and the nearby Chambers plant to make affordable, clean energy, meaning electricity that's generated without putting heat-trapping gases into the atmosphere. This project is part of a push in the U.S. and throughout the world to get rid of polluting energy sources that warm up the planet. Similar projects in Michigan, Hawaii, Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Massachusetts, and other states are making the country's electric power healthier, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly. This change could not be more timely, as a new report from the Sierra Club's Beyond Coal campaign recently revealed the harm caused by the U.S.'s heavy reliance on coal. The fine particle pollution from coal plants causes 3,800 premature deaths each year, often in states far away from the actual location of the plant. And that data doesn't even include the health risks caused by other types of coal pollution. Coal is also expensive compared to other options. According to Forbes, 209 out of 210 existing U.S. coal plants are now more expensive to run compared to replacement by new cheaper wind or solar energy in the same region. Meanwhile, the heat-trapping gases generated by coal plants contribute to increasing temperatures worldwide. The heat, in turn, causes more frequent and more destructive natural disasters like hurricanes and floods. Switching to eco-friendly solar, wind, and water power is the smart move for health, finances, and long-term safety, and after the transition, former coal plants will still play a crucial role. Because these areas are wired to the power grid, they're the perfect places to put energy storage projects, Bloomberg reports.
Okay, and you can read the rest of this in my description box. Let's see. No, actually, I'm going to finish reading here because it's not that much left.
Most clean energy sources need battery storage because, unlike coal which generates power on demand, wind and solar depend on the weather. Providers will need to generate and store energy when conditions are favorable, then release it at night or in calm weather. So far, New Jersey doesn't have enough wind and solar sources to need battery storage, says Bloomberg. But Starwood Energy Group is investing in what it sees as the inevitable future. In our opinion, it's irreversible, Starwood's CEO, Himanshu Saxena, told Bloomberg. Folks just have to get on the train.
Okay, and that's it for that. And I hope I got something for you that you enjoy hearing about. And don't forget to like, subscribe, come back once in a while at least. And I thank you for watching. Until next time, later.